They laughed when I said I was going to be an internet pundit, but when I turned on that webcam... Hi, I'm Scott Ott, and this is Bill Whittle Now. And Bill, this is an extra special episode of Bill Whittle Now for those people out there who are aspiring internet pundits. In other words, people who want to do what you do. And I thought, you've been doing this for a long time. Perhaps you have some wisdom to share or some warnings for people who would endeavor to get into this. Call it So You Want to Be an Internet Pundit. I remember a while back when Glenn Reynolds over at Instapundit published his book, An Army of Davids. And even though I didn't read it, I think the title was all I needed to know. There's this idea of a bunch of individual people out there speaking their truth, so to speak. We would prefer if it were the truth. But in any case, for starters, let me ask you, how does a viewer who's watching you right now know whether he or she is cut out for this kind of work?
Well, I think I'm the person to ask about this because I think I set the bar so low that really, if you don't think you can get over this bar, you're probably not the right person for this job. My initial thought about this was that my answer is just as good a reason as any why we need term limits. Because I started doing this in 2000, at the very, very end of 2002, started writing a blog called Eject, Eject, Eject. You were writing Scrappleface, Steve Green was writing Vodka Pundit. That was kind of the golden age of blogs where everybody basically had a print platform. And since it was free to go to anybody's blog, if you could be found, you could be seen, and people come to your site once or twice and they like what you write, then they'll bookmark you and they'll come again. This is how it all was going on in the early 2000s. And I was very lucky to have guys like Steve Denbest and of course Glenn Reynolds linked to a number of my essays, and so I got a little bit famous, and then we did the PJTV thing, and then this whole thing moved from blogs to video commentary. There are a few timeless principles that apply to becoming an internet pundit or becoming the caveman with the most, pretty small little pretty stones or rocks or whatever. and that is, when it comes to entertainment, and this is entertainment, you try to make education entertaining, but it's entertainment because you're not forced to watch it. When it comes to entertainment, the single great quality is uniqueness. In fact, in other words, something can be badly produced, something can be badly worded or whatever, but if it's interesting, you're 3/4 of the way there. So the first thing I would advise is to do what I would have advised anybody writing a screenplay before the internet was even a thing. And that is, for God's sake, whatever you do, you better write what you love and what you know about. Write about what your passion is, and don't write about anything else. And for God's sake, whatever you do, it is instant death to write what you think you want people to hear. That's just the end of it all.
Or what you think people want to hear.
What did I say? Yeah, sorry, I misspoke myself. As you can see, becoming an internet pundit is something that requires nothing but the most professional skills.
And step two is make sure you edit everything you do.
Well, I was a professional editor for middle part of my life, and I got very good at editing conversations to the point where nobody could tell where edits were being made. If there's one criticism of my work that I would give myself is that I wish I'd had a significantly larger number of editors than I've had, because I haven't had any. But because I'm a terrible example of that quote that's been attributed to Mark Twain and many other people, which is, I would have, if I'd had more time, I would have written less.
And by the way, as your editor, I'm crossing out 3 of those terribles. I think 1 is all we need.
One move.
You point out something very interesting, I think, because you want to be unique. And I can just hear a lot of people, because a lot of times people get into this because they see someone else doing it and they say, I want to be like him. And so, or her. And I can imagine somebody saying, yeah, I'm going to be unique like Dave Rubin. I'm going to be unique like Joe Rogan. I'm going to be unique like Ben Shapiro or Bill Whittle.
Yep.
And then you wind up essentially aping those people.
Yeah. And there was a period in my life before I was a professional editor where I was briefly trying to find employment as a comedy writer. I was actually was employed as a comedy writer, although not for a TV show. And I do remember that when we first started making movies on Super 8 Film back in 1976, all I wanted to do, and all we did do, was reenact word for word Monty Python sketches. And I just thought that was the funniest thing that there could possibly be. And I wanted to do that so bad. Maybe it's because I wanted the cheap laughs, maybe because I admired it so much. But I mean, it wasn't like a take on it. It was word for word, the argument clinic. And even then, people were saying, Bill, you should be writing original stuff. Your original stuff is really good. Yeah, but it's not as good as this.
You invented the deep fake.
But our delivery was not as good as Cleese's or Michael Palin's either. So it's kind of a phase you have to go through, I think. But back to the punditry thing, I already feel that that political punditry is not dead and not even really dying, but it is a minimally effective treatment for the disease that we have. Most all of what we do here, and Daily Wire and Blaze and all the rest of it, is consumed by people who already get it. And people talk about preaching to the choir dismissively, like, oh, yeah, just preaching to the choir, like it's almost like a bad thing. The choir needs preaching to. The choir is what's holding the whole church together. The choir is the line. And if you can preach to the choir and give them ammunition and hope, then that is actually the most important thing you can do. But what I'm getting at here is to say that, that, as I mentioned with my term limits argument, many of the things that I thought were important when I got into this, and the market's changed and styles have changed. But I was always, because I was coming out of a film and TV background, I always thought production values were really important, like animated graphic openings and all that cool stuff, lower thirds. And now it turns out that because there is so much user-produced content on the internet, that production values actually reduce the amount of views you get. People perceive them to be artificial and something that's in the way. And what they really want is the immediacy. Now I will toot my own horn here in one regard. Certainly I have nothing like the audience of Steve Crowder and even the largest conservative commentators like Crowder and Ben Shapiro have a fraction, and I mean like 2% of the total viewerships of people that do nothing but comment on video games, for example. But from the beginning of doing the videos back in 2009 until today, a number of people who specialize in marketing say that my affinity numbers are the highest they've ever seen. And I didn't even really understand what that means. But then I looked at the YouTube comments, because we get to see the entire list of videos. And we get to see the thumbs up, thumbs down proportions. And with the exception of one or two episodes that dip into the low 90s, all of them are above 97%, 98%, 99%. When you have 20, 30,000 views and 98% of your thumbs up, thumbs down are, thumbs up, that's measuring something. And
can I jump on that for a second?
Something is. Sure.
Because the comments are something that every internet pundit, part of me is hearing you saying, hey, you want to be an internet pundit, don't do punditry. Do your message some other way. Communicate in some more entertaining way that's not just talk, that's not just a PowerPoint presentation and 3 points in a poem. But inevitably, once you crank up that webcam and slap that thing up there on YouTube, people are going to start making known to you your deficiencies. How do you handle that as a pundit when you have a constant barrage of criticism coming your way that either you're wrong about what you said or you're terrible at saying it?
When I was a young man trying to get into writing and directing films and really had a burning desire to be on stage at the Academy Awards, I still do, although my speech would be significantly different today. I remember, boy, it's a little tough to actually put this into words. Could you ask me the question again?
Yeah, it's basically, how do you deal with the criticism? How do you deal with that incessant hammering that comes literally on a daily basis, where any particular video you post could have thousands of comments on YouTube, and then some additional ones behind the veil at the website?
Yeah, I remember when I was really into like the whole Hollywood acting, professional actor scene and so on, and had high regard for a lot of these people. Some of them I still have high regard for. I would read from virtually every actor. You've heard virtually every actor say this. You've heard virtually every Broadway star has said this. How do you deal with bad reviews? And the answer is, I don't read them. And that is the only possible answer. I thought it was extremely corny and frankly untrue at the time. But then I realized, no, it's absolutely true. If you start reading these comments, you will consciously or subconsciously begin to curve yourself either away from the pain or towards the praise, or both. And my experience, and most people's experience, is that every negative comment is worth at least 100 positive comments. That's the way the brain is wired, I'm sorry to say. So I don't read them. And I don't read them because I don't want my work to be compromised. I don't want to be second guessing what I do or say. In the early days, especially during Eject, and for a while with the videos, when somebody would I don't have a problem with people making an argument with me or people disagreeing with me. That doesn't bother me at all. In fact, if it's done even with half a degree of civility, it's kind of fun. But when people accuse me of things that I'm not and claim that I said things that I didn't say, for many years, I would just leap into the comment section and embarrass myself with the fury of my response. And I had a friend who talked me out of doing that, talked me out of responding to the comments, talked me into not reading them. And the way he did it was he appealed to the only psychological force I have that's stronger than burning rage, which is massive vanity. And basically what he said to me when I was making the case, well, I can't just let them say this. He basically said, look, Bill, Zeus does not come down from Mount Olympus to argue with shepherds about the weather. And I thought, that would make me Zeus in this one, right? Yep, you got it. Well, then, by God, all right. But there's something to that, and it's been 8 years since my friend Andrew Breitbart died. Over 8 years, and I knew him quite well, and I saw him in action many times. And I think the thing that actually really did Breitbart in was the fact that he was not able to not read the comments. He was not able to disengage. He would be up at 4 a.m. arguing, as I like to say, with some barista in St. Louis about something he did or didn't say. And he's adrenalized, and he's not getting rest, and he's not spending time with his family. And the thing I learned about negative comments, Scott, is that I could write an essay, let's say back at Eject, when I did read the comments, all of them. And they would mostly be filled with praise or congratulations or good job or something like that. Somebody would come into the comment section with a particularly nasty comment, and then from that point forward, from that moment in time forward, the comments were no longer, I'm not talking about good or bad comments, but from that point forward, the comments were no longer about what I had said, but now is an argument between this one guy and 15 or 20 people, and he's provoking them, he's trolling them. And at first I thought, well, I get freedom of speech and blah, 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 blah. But I got to the point where it's like, no, I'm just going to ban that person. I let them make one comment. I really do. You make whatever comment you want to, but if you're going to turn this comment section and this blog into you versus me, I'm not going to let you do it. I earned this audience. You didn't. I'm not going to give you my audience. You want to say something, say it. But I'm not going to let you hijack this entire comment stream for the next 3 days and make it about you. But to answer your question for people who are really doing this today, look, production values don't mean anything anymore. The more raw it is, the better people like it. So the answer, and you said that punditry may be not something you can do anymore. You can do punditry, but you can't just lecture people. You can't just tell them how you feel. you can tell them how you feel if you can do it in a way that makes sense, but you can't just, you can't just spew. It's got to be something to it. When I'm at my best, which is infrequently, obviously, but when I'm at my best, I find that my best consists of having a pretty solid foundation of actual facts, an argument that is constructed in such a way that there's really no way out of it, and on top of all of the left brain stuff, the logic stuff, there is an emotion and a passion that I bring to it because I really truly believe in this stuff. I really truly do. I don't take it lightly, and it means a lot to me. The topic, not the response, not the comments, not the praise, none of it. If you are not talking about the one thing in life that matters to you more than anything, then that passion and that emotion is going to be missing from your work and you're going to fail. But if all you have is passion and emotion and you don't bring anything new to the table, you're just a guy ranting. I think clearly the key, and even if you're commenting on video games, Critical Drinker is one of my favorite YouTubers out there, and obviously PewDiePie, who I don't watch, but he's done incredible stuff. Epic rap battles of history, all this stuff. They're unique and they're clever and they're interesting, and that's the sweet spot you have to find. The good news is, though, is that it is in fact an infinitely large, infinitely flat playing field. It's true, absolutely true, that Disney cannot buy more views for your video than you will get for free if your video is interesting enough. It is not the realm of gatekeepers, and it is not a realm that you need a large amount of money to enter. The reason I'm here is because I think somebody said 4 million blogs started in 2002, something like that. There were 5 or 6 of them that were worth reading, and yours was one, and Steve Green's was one, and Steve Denbest's was one, and James Lilacs, and a couple of other names that we could mention. But talent will out, and just for young people or people who are getting started on it, whatever you do, for God's sakes, resist the almost overwhelming temptation to recreate a Monty Python script. And by that I mean, don't try to be like anybody, because you're never going to be more like me than I am, and you shouldn't try to be.
If you'd like to start cutting your teeth in this realm, you can actually do that at billwhittle.com on the member-written blog, which is accessible only to members. And some people have
great stuff there.
Overtly said that this was great for them because they're getting their legs under them about how to express themselves and how to convey ideas. Most of them have reserved that to text-only writing, and then sometimes they bring in links to videos they appreciate. But there's nothing that would prevent you from uploading a video to YouTube and then embedding that at billwhittle.com on that member-written blog and get some sort of sense of how it is to do this work on a regular basis.
I have to add one thing.
If you're not a member, then you can't do that. But
sorry.
If you'd
I'm
like
sorry to interrupt the pitch. You can see what a professional I am when it comes to marketing and everything else. And here's some more of the yapping thing. But you mentioned something that I think is really critical.
And keep in mind that I do have to get to my other full-time job. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'll make them a call. I'll just tell them who I am. And this is a really important point. I would write an essay, you'd write an article or a piece or something. It could be seen by your regular audience. It might be seen by 10,000, 12,000 people, something like that. And then all of a sudden, you'll write something that Glenn Reynolds or somebody else will link to. And in the case of Glenn Reynolds, who writes Instapundit, we called it an Instalanche. And you will suddenly see that the thing that you wrote basically for yourself has now been seen by 300,000 people in the last 48 hours. And that is a rush that is indescribable. And I had to put that in there because when you mention the members like getting the feedback, there's nothing like it, really.
And in the comments, we will recommend a good rehab place to go to after that Instalanche happens so that you can detox from that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're grateful to the members of billwhittle.com who have made this possible. If you've not yet become one of their ranks, you can go to billwhittle.com and click the big green Become a Member button. For Bill, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.